she walked, she gave orders for temple offerings and thanks to the gods. She also remembered to send 20 bulls to Aeneas' friends on the shore with 100 bristling hogs' backs, 100 fat lambs with their ewes, and the gods' joyous gift of wine. Inside the palace, the preparations were regally sumptuous. They were making ready a banquet in the central hall. There was drapery, artistically worked in princely purple, a massive array of silver on the tables, and gold plate engraved with the heroic deeds of this people's ancestors, and a long succession of historic events throughout all generations since their nation's birth. But Aeneas found that his love for his son would not let his mind rest. He sent Achates swiftly to the ships, with instructions to tell Ascanius the news and to bring him to the walled city. For the loving father's every thought was fixed on Ascanius. Achates was also to fetch presents, things rescued from the fall of Troy, a figured gown stiff with gold lace, and a mantle hemmed with a yellow thistle pattern, both garments which had graved Argived Helen, fine gifts from her mother Leda, which she had carried off from Mycenae when she first started for Troy in her wicked marriage. Aeneas added a scepter, once borne by Priam's eldest daughter, Eleone, a necklace shaped like a raw of mulberries, and a double diadem of gold set with jewels. Achates hastened to obey, and was soon on his way to the ship. But meanwhile, Venus was pondering new plans and new devices. She decided to make Cupid assume the form and features of the charming Ascanius, and go in place of him. He should give Dido the presents, and as he did so inflame her with the distraction of love, and entwine the fire of it about her very bones. For Venus could not help fearing the uncertainty of a home menaced by Phoenician duplicity. Juno's savage will tormented her, and as night drew on her, anxiety returned. Therefore she spoke to her winged son. Son, you alone are my strength, and all my might is in you. Son, you even scorned a father's Styphean thunderbolts. Now I appeal to you, and humbly pray to your divine majesty for aid. You know how your brother Aeneas has traveled storm-tossed on the ocean round every coast, solely on account of merciless Juno's persistent hate. You have often sympathized with me in my sorrow. And now Phoenician Dido detains him and talks to him, coaxing him to stay with her. I am anxious about the outcome of any entertainment which Juno sanctions. She will certainly not be slow to act at this critical moment. Therefore, I plan to forestall her by a trick of my own, and enclose the queen in such a girdle of flames that no act of divine power may divert her from submitting, as I intend, to fierce love for Aeneas. To enable you to effect this, listen now to my plan. Aeneas' dear father has now sent for the young prince, who is my own greatest love, and he is now preparing to go to the Phoenician city with gifts, things saved from the fire of Troy and from the ocean perils. I shall lull him into to a profound sleep, and then hide him away in my hallowed precinct, high up in Cythera, or at Idalium, for otherwise he might learn of the trick, or appear suddenly while it is being played. You must just, for one night, assume his shape as a disguise, and wear his familiar features. After all, he is a boy like you. Then during the royal entertainment, when the wine is flowing, and Dido in her great happiness clasps you to her, embracing you and planting on you her sweet kisses, you shall breathe into her invisible fire and poison her without her knowing. Cupid obeyed his dear mother's command. He took off the wings from his shoulders, and in great amusement copied Iulius' way of walking. Venus now poured delicious and pervasive sleep into Iulius, and holding him closely and caressingly she carried him by her divine power to Idalium's wooded upland, where soft Amaracus guarded him amid flowers and shade, spread sweetness with the perfume which it breathed. The obedient Cupid was soon on his way, carrying the royal gifts for the Queen of Carthage, and happy in the guidance of Achates. When he arrived, the Queen had just composed herself, proudly curtained on her golden seat in the center. And here Troy's chieftain Aeneas and all the manhood of Troy foregathered and took their places in coverlets of purple. Attendants held water for them to wash their hands, passed them bread in baskets, and brought napkins of soft material. Beyond, within the palace, waited 50 serving maids, each at her station, whose office it was to replenish the capacious storerooms and rekindle the hearth fire of the home. There were 100 other maids and 100 manservants, all matched for age, to load the food onto the tables and set forth the drink. Many Carthaginians who had been invited to take their places on the embroidered banquet seats entered through the festal doorways. They wondered at the gifts from Aeneas, and at Iulius, the divinity in disguise, now wearing a flush of emotion and speaking in his assumed character. They admired the scepter and the mantle hemmed with the yellow thistle pattern. But beyond all the rest, the unhappy Phoenician Dido, condemned now to sure destruction, could not satisfy her longing. She gazed, and the fire in her grew. She was affected equally by the boy and by the beautiful gifts. Cupid had been clinging to Aeneas, embracing him with his arms around his neck, expressing great love to his supposed father. Then he crossed to the queen. Dido's eyes and her whole mind were fixed on him, and at times she would fondle him and hold him close to her, for she could not know, poor Dido, how mighty a god was entering her. And then he, remembering the wish of his mother, the Cyprian, began gradually to dispel from Dido all thought of Psycheus. He assailed that heart of hers, so long inactive, and her brain, so unused to these thoughts, with the thrill of a living love. The banquet came to its first pause. The tables were removed, They were set in great bowls of wine, and filled them to the brim. Loud talk broke out in the palace, and the voices rolled through the hall's great spaces. There were lamps hanging from the gold-paneled ceiling, and a blaze of candles vanquished the darkness. The queen asked for a jeweled drinking bowl of heavy gold. She filled it with wine, full strength, as the first Belus and all his successors had filled it often before. There was a call for silence in the palace, and she spoke. Jupiter, you who are said to have created the laws of hospitality, may it be your wish to make this day a fortunate day for the Phoenicians and for the exiles from Troy, a day to be remembered by our descendants. May Bacchus give her joy, and Juno the generous grant their blessing. Phoenicians, show your goodwill, and make our gathering festive. So saying, she poured out a drink offering unto the table. After the libation, she first touched the drink with her own lips, and passed it then to Bitias with a challenge. He boldly drank all the foaming bowl, soaking himself from the full gold vessel. Other Phoenician lords drank after him, and Iupus, the long hair, took his lyre bound with gold, and his music rang. The great master, Atlas, had been his teacher. He sang now of the wandering moon and the laboring sun, of the origin of men and of beasts, of rain, fire, of Arcturus, of the Hyads which foretell the rain, and of the two bears. His song told why on each winter day the sun so hastens to dip in ocean, and told of the cause which then retards the night and makes them slow. The Phoenicians cheered and cheered again, and the Trojans applauded with them. And the doomed Dido herself spent the whole night in talk of many kinds, drinking deep of her love. She asked question after question about Priam and Hector. She asked what arms the son of the dawn carried when he came to Troy, and inquired now of the quality of Diomedes' horses, and now of the stature of Achilles. Then she said, "But come, you must tell me, guest of mine, the whole story from the beginning, of the trap which the Greeks set, the calamity which befell your people, and your own wanderings, for it is now the 7th summer of your roaming over the land and sea throughout the world.